What's up, New Hope family? Welcome back to New Hope Online. It's so awesome that you joined us today. My name is David. This is the lobby. Welcome to the lobby as well. And with me once again, Pastor Russ does himself.
Yes, but I got a question before we get started.
This isn't good.
How many times have I been on here?
Well, I don't have the list in front of me.
Where's my jacket?
This.
No.
There's a 5 on it right there.
Yeah, no, we need, just like the Augusta Masters, they get the jackets, and Aaron got a jacket, so where's my jacket?
You're very needy. We'll talk more about your lobby history later in the show.
All right.
But
that'll work.
You are this is the part of the show where I don't know anyone's title by its official name. Community Engagement Pastor. I think I usually get yours, right?
Yes.
Last week, Michael Bierce officially became the tech human.
And people actually called him the tech human.
Did they?
In the lobby.
I like that.
Yes.
Post more in the chat calling Michael the tech human. Subtitle, technically a human.
Yeah, someone said, "Hey, tech human, will you please give me the lyrics to the songs?"
Yes, that was a lot of fun. We had a good time last week. Again, this is the lobby. We just kind of hang out before the service gets started in about 15 minutes. So again, we're so happy that you joined us this week. First thing I want to encourage you to do is to download our app, the New Hope Wesleyan app.
What color is that?
It's definitely not the color of your shirt there. I think it's blue.
Blue, yep.
Pretty confident it's blue. It's been established at this point. You can get it on the App Store or the Google Play Store. So I definitely want to encourage you to go download that. You can get your sermon notes on there. You can get you do your online giving on there if you want to connect for prayer. Fill out a Connect card. All sorts of different stuff. Get updates.
Yep.
Download that app. Turn notifications on too, so then you get updates when services are about to start or special events, things like that. Speaking of that Connect card, though, really want to encourage you to fill one of those out. Boy, we're on like week 6 of me not doing my homework to figure out exactly where the Connect card. But do you know you are?
Yes, and I will tell you it's not up here.
It's not up here.
I meant to tell you that, but it's not up here.
Where is it?
It's actually probably like that way.
There. It's over there.
Yes.
Right over there. And it's definitely not up here.
There's a link in the comments.
So over there.
Yep.
And there's a link in the comments. You can also find it at our website, newhopehere.com.
Yes.
Good looking out.
Yes.
Russ does. Appreciate it. But yeah, we really want to encourage you to fill out that Connect card. Helps us get kind of your updated information. You can put prayer requests or praises and things on there. We pray over those as a staff every week.
Every Tuesday.
And also if you're interested in like a group or a volunteer opportunity, community engagement, things like that, you can just put that on your Connect card as well.
And also I would say this too. If you're not physically in our Williston campus or if you're not in our Tioga campus, there's still ways to serve even on our online campus.
Absolutely.
And we're always looking for hosts or we're wanting to start our discipleship journey online as well. So we'd need people to host those and even small groups.
Yep.
Or host watch parties.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So we talked about that last week as well. But if you go fill out that Connect card, which is down there, as established, go fill that out and just put on there. Hey, New Hope Online is our main campus. We're looking for a way to get involved with serving, and I promise you, we will get connected with you. We would love to have you serve the Lord through New Hope with our online campus. So, also let us know where you're watching from. We always like to hear about that. I did hear one of our staff members, well, 2 of our staff members who will go unnamed, were on vacation and they watched the lobby while in service at another church, which I thought was pretty great. I don't think they had the volume on, but I still appreciated it. Bringing the joy of the lobby to other churches.
And I'm also a little disappointed that there are some other staff members that were at one of the happiest places on earth, yet they did not put a picture of them watching it in the lobby.
They were at a Minnesota Twins game? That's crazy.
No, the happiest place on earth. Not the Twins.
Until the playoffs, it's the happiest place on earth. Then it becomes the saddest.
Yes, but, I understand that.
We share our sports pain. Even though your team, the Falcons, caused one of the greatest pains of my life with the Vikings.
Yeah, but
which comes up every time you're on. But I'm not bitter about it though.
But even then,
you still failed in the next.
That was not as embarrassing as losing a 28-3 lead.
That was rough. At least both of our teams were just terrible all year this year. They didn't even make us think we were going to have a chance. Also want to encourage you to share the link. We've been talking about that here on the lobby, but that's kind of your online campus version of inviting your neighbors to come to church with you. So if you're on Facebook, just hit that share button and share it to your page or send it to someone specifically. If you're watching us at our Church Online platform or on YouTube, just copy that link, post it in social media, text it to a friend, however you want to go about that. But really want to encourage you to share the link. Invite your friends to come to church with you here at New Hope Online. I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, a lot of people have been doing that. They've been sharing the link. And,
yes, they have.
And it's really cool. And that kind of allows other people to find our service and allows God to speak into their lives as well. So appreciate those of you that have been sharing it and want to encourage the rest of you to be doing that as well. We're in our series, How to Wreck Your Life right now, which is probably my favorite series of all time, just because it's kind of a sort of sarcastic a little bit.
You can be a Vikings fan and a Falcons fan.
That's that two great steps. Yeah, next week, Russ and I will be preaching. The service will be titled "Be a Vikings or Falcons Fan." There'll be a lot of crying. A lot of sadness, but
it's been a good series.
It has been a good series,
in all seriousness,
and it continues to be that. We have a really, really good message coming today from Pastor Mike. So I'm very excited about that. The last week and then now this week as well, both at our in-person campuses and online, we're really, really trying to encourage people to get connected into a group. And so, again, want to encourage you to do that by going to newhopehere.com/groups, I believe. Producer, groups with an S, right? Yes, groups with an S. So newhopehere.com/groups. And you can see all of our groups on there, and you can get signed up. As Pastor Russ mentioned earlier, there are groups that are just online. So if you're not in the area or you're not able to meet in person yet, New Hope Online is your primary church campus. There are groups for you.
Yeah, matter of fact, I think one of them, I just heard that, they have people in multiple different states. So, you don't even have to be in the same state to be a part of these groups.
Yep. And so just great groups. So I promise you there's a group for you. So go and check that out. And we touched on it a little bit earlier too, but there's a lot of great serving opportunities as well. Again, even for those of you that this is your primary campus. So get connected with a group, find a place to serve, keep investing in New Hope. And especially for those of you online, we talk about it a lot, but when you're trying to find a way to not just consume the service, right? Like, okay, I don't just sit on my couch that I'll be watching the football game on later and turn church on for an hour, sit here checked out and then, go on with my day. Getting more involved, whether it's serving groups, things like that. Does that help you engage more?
Yes.
It's just the same as it does for an in-person church, right? Like it's a lot easier to just walk in and out and not really engage with God while you're here if you're not serving. It's the same thing online. So again, go to newhopehere.com/groups, find a group, and find a place to serve as well. We really want to encourage you to do that. We've got our New Hope Kids Online, which continues to be an awesome option for kids. So check that out at newhopehere.com or on our Family Ministries page on Facebook. And our Family Ministries team just does a really great job.
Yes, they do.
Playing, they intro it with, it's always Pastor Andrea and volunteers. So you still have your children's pastor, but then they dive into the curriculum after they play a fun game or something like that. And it's broken up for different age groups too. So want to encourage you to get an extra device if you're watching with your kids. I think it goes up through 5th grade too, from preschool age through 5th grade. So different age groups. So find the right one for your kid, get them an extra device. Once the message starts, you can get them watching that so that they can engage better, not distract you as much, not pull every single toy out of their room and throw it on the floor directly in front of you.
Yes.
Just like that's just came up off the top of my head.
Yep.
Not speaking from experience
no
at all.
Experience there.
Leighton, Lundeen. But yes, definitely want to encourage you to do that as well. Check out New Hope Kids Online. Okay, we'll touch on a few other things. I do want to mention the mug because you were very proud of it.
Oh yes, I got a new mug just for this.
It's a good one.
Yes.
It's kind of rare these days to see a Yoda mug, not a Baby Yoda mug.
Yes.
Baby Yoda has become such a huge deal.
Yes.
I feel like it's overwhelmed the original Yoda. I'm a big Star Wars fan. If I was a huge Star Wars fan, I would know what their race is off the top of my head.
Well, I don't know what the race is, but even Yoda was a cool name. I'm not too fond of the name of the Baby Yoda.
No, spoiler alert.
Oh, no spoiler
if you're not
alert.
caught up.
No spoiler alert.
But yes, he does have a name now.
Yes, he has a name.
Other than Baby Yoda. Well, he was first season they were trying to tell us we had to call him the child. Like,
yes, the child.
No one's calling him the child. We're all going to call him Baby Yoda.
No, he's like 100 years old already or something like that.
50.
Or 50.
Yeah. I do. It's an excellent mug.
Yes.
I brought this one back out. It's my Minnesota mug. It's one of my favorites. It's like a good sturdy mug too. Yep. So, well, you in your feistiness earlier brought it up, but we do have a very special day today because Pastor Russ does himself. This is his 5th time here on the lobby.
There we go.
This is his 5th. Yes. Yeah, see, it's even a lack of gratitude.
Yep.
Lack of gratitude. But no, we're very thankful to have had you on for the 5th time. We have a very special tradition, long-running tradition here on the lobby. When you hit your 5th time as a guest, you get to join the Five Timers Club. So, if you would please stand, if I may have this. The original member of the Five Timers Club, Pastor Aaron, is here to present you with a certificate.
Reverend Russell McKelvin, it is my honor and privilege to present you this certificate of recognition for having shown up 5 times, a feat that has only been accomplished one other time.
Yes.
By me. But now you enter into the halls of superiority along with me.
Yes.
Let's. Here's your official Five Timers Club jacket. It's been tailored specifically to you, so I'm sure it's going to be an excellent fit over your hoodie. Perfect.
Which means it was something they thought might fit at the thrift.
Well, yeah, take this off.
I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead and have a seat. Pastor Aaron, thank you.
Thank you.
I
feel so
honored. No. That stays on forever and ever.
You never take it off, Russ. You never take it off.
You almost got removed from the Five Timers Club there. That was close. Did you see the patch there?
There you go.
There's your 5 times patch. So congratulations. Welcome to the Five Times Club.
Yes.
This is a big moment for you.
Yep.
I would argue probably the biggest moment of your career. It's hard for me to think of anything bigger than this.
Nope,
so
this is it. This is the
kind
highlight.
of the pinnacle.
Yes.
Retirement is probably up next.
So now, it's downhill.
Yeah, you might as well just be done
downhill
at this point. But
done.
You've done a lot of really cool things for the community.
Yeah.
You've led a lot of great projects, gathered a lot of volunteers to do special things to help those in need. But 5 times on the lobby seems to have surpassed all of them. So very proud of you.
So now I can just kick back and relax.
Yeah, now you're in now. You're in the club.
I'm in the club.
You're in the club. It's no longer a one-man club. Which I don't know how Aaron's going to feel about, to be honest. I think he might be a little bitter about. But you've joined him. You've officially joined him in the Five Timers Club. So congratulations. Is there anything you'd like to say to all the millions of fans watching right now?
Thank you. It's an honor. I'd just like to thank my wife for supporting me in this endeavor.
Couldn't have done it without her.
Or the fans. Yep, or the fans. Yep. Or my special favorite redhead, Parker.
Or
Or the producer.
Or the host.
She probably.
Maybe the host that's had you on for 5
that
times.
host. Yeah, let's thank David. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you came on strong. Because I believe, Pastor Mike hasn't even joined the Five Timers Club yet.
Wow.
And I think he was on twice before you made your initial appearance.
There you go.
So says a lot about one of you.
Yes.
Well, we've got a little over a minute before the service gets started. So again, Pastor Russ does himself has joined the Five Timers Club along with Pastor Aaron. It's very exciting. He has his official Five Timers Club certificate, and he has joined. We do want to mention a couple other things quick before we jump into the service and jump into worship together. We have our Connect card, which is down there as a step.
Down there.
You earned that jacket just by telling us the correct location of the Connect card. Down there, there's a link in the chat.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while to tell you, but I just keep on forgetting. But yes, it's down.
Not
up, down.
So I want to encourage you to fill out a Connect card. There's a spot in there for prayer requests and things. We pray over those every week as a staff, and a lot of other great things on there. So fill out that Connect card. Share the link. Definitely want you to share this link. It's kind of like inviting your neighbor to church, just the digital version. So If you're on Facebook, just hit that share button. If you're on YouTube or our church online platform, just copy the link right now, post it on social media or text it to a friend. Invite people to come worship with you at New Hope Online. We've got New Hope Kids Online,
yes,
our family ministries page on Facebook, as well as newhopehere.com. Download our app, get all this stuff on there, your sermon notes, do your online giving, everything like that. I think I hit on all the huge stuff that I am supposed to actually mention as we do ridiculous things like give you a 5-timers jacket. So again, thank you so much for being with us this week at New Hope Online. We're so glad that you're here. Let's go and worship together.
Let's worship.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on New Hope Online. Please join us as we worship. The night is falling, when fear is coming, still you're calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. Yeah, I've decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me.
out, church. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. Oh, I'm alive. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. As we continue in worship, we just want to invite you to spend some time with God. Just tell him about your life, how things are going, whether they're good, they're bad. If you're going through hard times, I just want to encourage you that Jesus is right there next to you. He's ready to help you carry the burden. And this song that we're going to sing lays it out just perfectly. And so as we continue in worship, we just want to invite you to let the words wash over you and just make that connection with Jesus. So let's continue. There's a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fire. All my debt left for dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning, either way I won't bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding what power set me free,
Church, let's pray together. Dear God, first off, we would just like to thank you because you are good. We'd like to thank you for your goodness. We'd like to thank you for your mercy. We'd like to thank you for your grace. We'd like to thank you for your forgiveness. And God, we'd like to thank you because of, as that song speaks of, and as your word speaks of, that you are the same God in both the good times and the same God in the times of the fire, God, that you never change, that you stay the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And God, I pray that that would be our encouragement as we move into new waters as a nation, as we move into times of unsuredness as a church. May that be a reminder that you are good in all things. God, that your design for us has not changed, that your mission and calling has not changed, that your desire for the church has not changed, and the things that you have put on our hearts and the ways that you have elected and raised us up individually has not changed in the least, God. That you still desire for us to be your hands and feet here on earth, that you still desire for us to go and be the church in our world. And God, because of this, I just pray that you would continue to encourage us and equip us during this time. That every action, that every word, and every deed that we do this week and throughout our lives would not be us, but it would be you, that you would empty us of ourselves and fill us with your goodness, that you would fill us with your love. God, may we reflect you in everything that we do. May you be seen in us, God. May you be seen in all things, God. May your goodness be known to all people, God. We pray all of this in your almighty, in your unchanging, in your unending name, Jesus. Amen.
Well, welcome to New Hope Online. We love being able to worship with you. And one of the things that we love about being able to connect with you is hearing where you have praises, things that are going right in your life. We just love to be able to rejoice with you. Or maybe you have prayer requests, just some things you'd like the greater community to be able to connect in prayer over some issues in your life. So if you're joining us on the Church Online platform, there is a button for the Connect card, the online Connect card. If you're joining us on Facebook, you can go to the app or to our website, newhopehere.com, and fill out a Connect card there so we can get to know you just a little bit better.
Yeah, and speaking of connecting, we here at New Hope, we participate in offering. And we always say we give through New Hope, we don't give to New Hope. Basically what that means is New Hope gives away a portion of it to our region, our community, and our world. So just a lot of really cool, exciting ways for that to go out. We actually, the few ways to give through New Hope, we have texting, we have through our website as well, and our app. So a lot of really cool ways to give through New Hope.
And finally, speaking of connecting, as we're talking through this idea of being able to connect better, you don't get as much out of church if it's something that you just watch. But that connecting point is really getting involved and being able to connect with other people. And we're starting our fall, spring group life semester. And for those of you that are a distance away from us, or you just aren't comfortable with coming back around other people, we do have some online options where you can still connect with group life. Or for those of you that are maybe local, you don't feel comfortable with a large group, but you do like the idea of meeting in person with a small group, that would be a possibility, an option for you as well. So to get connected with our group life, you can either go to the app and go under the Discover, under Adults, and you'll see a way to click for group life information. Or you can go to the website, newhopehere.com, and it has a drop down for that, where it's next steps, and then it has group life specified under that you can click. Or if you want to, you can always call the office or email us at discipleship@newhopewilliston.com, and we'll get you in a group that is a good fit for you. So let's continue worshiping as we listen to God's words for us this morning.
Hey, welcome to New Hope, and let me especially say welcome to Plentywood, Montana. I know we've got people who are joining us from literally all over the world, but Plentywood Harvest Church is joining us this weekend. They've asked if we could kind of step in and, in a sense, be a substitute teacher. They're connected with a great church in Billings, Montana, normally, but that connection didn't work out this weekend, and we just feel honored that you would ask us to step in. I know we've had that connection a couple times in the past, and we're excited to be able to do this. We're actually going to be talking about these kinds of connections increasingly in 2021. Our mission as a church family is to help churches and communities all across a region, North Dakota, Eastern Montana, Central Canada, and even beyond, to begin gatherings of their own, or to help churches that maybe need us to step in and come alongside and partner. And so we're excited for some things that are going to be happening in the coming days. Again, we're going to be talking about that more and more and more. But our goal is to have a gathering, a transformational biblical community in every community across a region, and those who join us from around the world. And I know some of you in other parts of the United States, other parts of the world, you've struggled to connect with a faith community in your community, and you would call New Hope home, even though there's some physical distance with us, and you're joining us as part of our online campus. Listen, we want to be able to help you gather people together and to bring New Hope to your community, or maybe to step in as we're helping out with Plentywood this weekend as kind of a substitute when those things don't work out in your own community. Would you just let us know? You can email me at pastor.mike@newhopewilliston.com, and we would love to be able to help you out in those moments. My prayer for today is that wherever we are at, wherever we're gathering together, is that God would meet with us in a very tangible way. Because I think this message is going to be specifically challenging to most of us, if not all of us. And so my prayer has been that God would show up and work in our hearts. We're in week 3 of a series we've called How to Wreck Your Life. And I love that title. We're talking about things that we often do, and maybe sometimes things that we choose not to do that have the potential to wreck our life. In fact, in these next couple weeks in particular, it's going to get even a little bit more intense, because we're going to be talking about some of the things that we do or maybe we stop doing when stuff gets hard. You ever done that? Where life just gets hard and you decide, in order to make it easier, here's what I'm going to do, or in order to make it easier, I'm going to stop doing this. And in reality, we discover later that the very thing we thought would make our life easier actually messed our life up and wrecked our life a little. And as this series goes on, we're going to be delving more and more into that, and it's going to get a little bit more intense. And today is going to be no exception. Today we're talking about a word that we all love, and a word that we all want for ourselves. But if we're really honest, and today's going to call for some honesty of ourselves, if we're really honest, we like to experience it, but there are times we aren't sure we want to extend it to others. Say, what's that word? It's forgiveness. Today we're talking about forgiving those offenses that often will kind of build up. The list will build up, will accumulate. Those moments that, if left unchecked, will lead to bitterness. And those things, if we don't deal with, they'll hold us back from the life that God intended for us to have and live. I think most of us would agree that we're living in a world right now, and we're living in a culture right now where it just feels like people are easily offended. Anybody agree with that? It just feels like everybody's offended about everything. In fact, let's just take a poll real quick. So wherever you're at, and if you're part of our online campus, you can raise your hand and put that raise your hand emoji in the chat. Wherever you are, just if this is you, raise your hand, all right? Here's the question. Raise your hand if you know someone, or if you know of someone. You don't even have to know them. You know of someone who it just feels like they're easily offended. Listen, if you don't have your hand raised, if you didn't respond in the chat, then you aren't on social media, because it feels like everybody knows somebody or knows of somebody who's easily offended, or you aren't watching the news. If you don't know of someone who's easily offended, you must be living in a box or in the backwoods, because everyone, it feels like these days, right? Everyone seems to be offended by, it feels like everything. It just feels sometimes like people are more angry these days, like they're getting angry, like they're more easily ticked off. I had a friend this last week who on Instagram said this. She said, I just feel like you can say anything and someone's going to disagree and someone's going to get ticked off. And so she said, I'm going to see if I can find something that we could all agree on and won't tick someone off. And so she started listing things. And sure enough, someone said, no, someone disagreed, someone got angry. Finally, she said, I think I've got it. She said, can we all agree that we all need air? And of course someone, whether it was sarcastic or angry, I don't know, someone responded and said, yeah, let's talk about air pollution. It just feels like no matter what we bring up, someone is going to be offended, and especially politics, right? Now, politics causing us to be offended is not a new thing. It's been happening for centuries, but it sure feels like just a word, just a phrase, a topic, a name, a post, and suddenly anger just erupts like a volcano coming to the surface. We all know someone who's easily offended. But let's not let ourselves off the hook quite that easily, because it's real easy for us to talk about someone else. It's much more difficult for us to talk about how easily we are offended. It's much more difficult for me to talk about how easily I'm offended, because I'm easily offended. So we're going to start with a phrase today. It's not in your notes. It's not on the screen or anywhere. We're going to start with a phrase that I want us all to say out loud together. Wherever you're at, in fact, you can type it in the chat. Say, I'm going to say this. Wherever you're at, I want you to say this phrase with me. Here's the phrase. The phrase is, today's teaching is for me. Today's teaching is for me. All right, everybody, on the count of 3, we're all going to say this together. Ready, set, today's teaching is for me. Now, I'm going to guess that the first time you said that, it's like, okay, I don't even know entirely what that's about. Now, let's all say that like we mean it. And in fact, let's say this as kind of a prayer for the Holy Spirit to speak to our lives and not allow us to focus on other people, but to say it together. Ready? Let's say it together. Today's teaching is for me. Because we're real honest with ourselves, and I said we're going to need to be honest with ourselves for a minute. It can be so easy to get offended. We all have something that sets us off. Could be a topic, could be when someone rolls their eyes, or a reaction or a tone of voice. It could be, probably you've experienced this, it could be you text someone and then you look and the bubbles pop up. You know what bubbles I'm talking about? These bubbles that you see it on their screen if you've got an iPhone, where you see they're responding and then the bubbles disappear and they didn't respond, and you're thinking to yourself, I saw the bubbles, you were going to respond. And we begin to think, you just ghosted me, you're ignoring me, you're blowing me off. And we find ourselves getting offended over just the craziest things. We live in an age of perpetual offense. Quick to be offended, quick to call foul, quick to judge, quick to become bitter. And hear me, I'm not pointing at anybody else. Remember what I said? Today's teaching is for who? Today's teaching is for me. I'm as bad at this as anybody else. I've been watching and have witnessed for years, and sometimes I've been the problem of organizations, businesses, churches, where there is one person who just seems like they're incredibly easy to offend. And suddenly everybody stops sharing their opinion because they're scared of offending that person. And when you stop sharing your opinion, truth ceases to be spoken out loud. And so we kind of live in a place where we aren't addressing reality, and it's so easy to get offended. And suddenly the community, the relationships, the team breaks down. That's why people leave churches. That's why people leave jobs. That's why people leave teams, is because we're so easily offended. I've walked alongside of people who don't understand why relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship seems to end with an explosion or end with somebody just kind of disappearing. And they're blind to the fact that it's because they are easily offended. Remember, we said today's teaching is for who? Today's teaching is for me. And let me just get real personal for a moment and kind of get up in our face a little bit. Right now, I'm watching a whole lot of people in our world who, in the name of Jesus, are getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And it's not righteous biblical anger if they're really honest. They're offended. And listen, I get it. There are crazy things happening in our world. There's things that are wrong happening in our world, but crazy things and wrong things have been happening since the Garden of Eden. And I want you to listen to this very carefully as we dive into the teaching. Listen to this. This is not in your notes, but this is so important. There is never, 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 never. Can I add another never? There is never, ever, ever, ever a win in living offended. I've never found myself saying, oh, my life is so much better because I'm bitter. I've never found myself saying, I'm having a great day today because I chose to be offended by something that someone did today. I've never found myself in my marriage saying, oh, my marriage is so much closer because I'm holding a grudge. I've never found myself saying my relationships are so much richer because I'm resentful towards what other people have done. And I've never found myself saying, God, thank you for helping me make such a difference in this world because I'm more angry today than I was yesterday. There's never been a win in living offended. But it's so easy to be offended, especially it feels like these days. And that's why I'm struggling a lot with this, and I'm having to remind myself of a phrase that I learned some time back. It's not in your notes, but it's a phrase that's worth writing down because it's true about you as well. Remember we said today's teaching is for who? Today's teaching is for me. It's for you. So don't look at anybody else. Here's a phrase that I'm having to repeat to myself often when I feel tempted to be offended. Here's the phrase: your life is too short and your calling is too great to live offended. And that's true about you. Your life is too short, and God has called you, even if you haven't entered into a relationship with Jesus yet, that what he has called you to be part of in this messed up world, your calling is too big and too great to live it limited by being offended, because when you and I choose to live offended, it limits our life. So instead of listening to me, let's look at what God has to say about that. Let's look at the Bible. We're going to go to a whole bunch of different places. Let's go to the Old Testament. The book of Proverbs talks about being offended and talks about anger, talks about resentment and bitterness multiple ways. We'll just look at one to get us started. It says, a person's wisdom yields patience. In other words, if you're wise, you're going to be careful how you react to the circumstances of your life. And I love this phrase. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. If you've got your notes or you've got that open, circle that word overlook, because that word overlook, part of what it means is you have a choice in how you respond. In other words, it is to your glory. It's going to bring you freedom and joy to choose not to be offended, Did you know that if you're offended by something that happens to you, something that someone said or did to you, it's not that person's fault that you're offended. It's your choice. And I know our immediate response to that is, but listen, what if what they did really was wrong? What if it was really messed up? We're going to come back in our next series in February. We're going to talk about relationships, and we're going to talk about how we respond when someone genuinely does something that is wrong, that's rude, that's messed up, that's evil. But let me give you a little bit of a preview. Forgiving someone for something that they did does not mean that you're excusing what they did. For being a forgiving person does not mean that you live without boundaries. Forgiving someone, catch this, because this will go to the next verse. Forgiveness means that we treat other people as human beings just like us, who are broken, messed up, and in need of forgiveness. Let's go to our next verse. Ephesians chapter 4 says, be kind and compassionate to one another. Wouldn't it be awesome if even just the church, people who call themselves Christians, if that's how we respond to our world? But notice what it says, what that looks like. Forgiving each other. Notice it doesn't say forgiving some people. Forgiving each other, just as in Christ, God forgave you. See, forgiveness is recognizing that that person who did something that tempts you to be offended, to choose not to overlook it. Forgiveness is not excusing what they did. Forgiveness is saying, when Jesus went to the cross 2,000 years ago to die for my sin, he also did it for their sin. He did it for what they just did. And when I choose to be offended, when I choose to say, no, I'm going to hold this against them, I'm saying what Jesus did was not enough for them. And by the way, if it's not enough for them, maybe it's not enough for you. Part of what I'm saying is, when I'm saying, no, I'm going to hold an offense against someone, a grudge against someone, a resentment against someone, part of what I'm saying is, Jesus, I disagree with you, with your offer of forgiveness. We go a little bit earlier in that same chapter, Ephesians chapter 4, and we're going to unpack this the rest of our time. It says, be patient with each other. We've read that already. Making allowances for each other's faults because of your love. Can we just read this verse out loud together? Wherever you're at, read it with me. It says, be patient with each other, making allowances or allowance for each other's faults because of your love. Let's try it again. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. How in the world do we do this when what people do and say hurts? I'm going to give you a phrase, a big idea, just 3 words that summarizes this, and it comes in a word picture, and we're just going to unpack it the rest of our moments we have together. It's a phrase, and you can write these words down. It's 3 words. Let me put it up here. Mind the gap. Mind the gap. If you've ever been to United Kingdom, if you've ever been to London, then you've probably ridden on the London Underground. Actually, the London Underground, their version of the subway, last weekend celebrated their 158th anniversary. It first opened in 1863, and that year carried about 40,000 people. Today, it carries tens of thousands of people every single day. But if you've ever been there, for over the last 100 years, there is a phrase that is used over and over and over and over. Every time a train pulls into a station, the doors open, people pour out, people pour in. It's hundreds, maybe thousands of times a day, you hear this phrase, mind the gap, mind the gap, mind the gap. I wish I had a British accent because it sounds so much cooler. But mind the gap, mind the gap. What are they saying? They're saying, as you step out of the train onto the platform, or the other way around, there's a gap between the platform and the train. And if you don't pay attention, if you don't mind where you're looking, at best, you'll get tripped up. At worst, you'll die. It'll wreck your life. There's a dynamic that happens in every relational interaction that you and I have. And it has to do with the gap. That dynamic is the reality that there is a gap. In fact, I'll illustrate it this way. There is a gap between a person's action, what they say or what they do, and how I react to them. There is this kind of gap in between. And what it is there is a microsecond, a split second between we hear what they say, we see what they do, and then we're going to respond, where we fill in the gap, in that second in between. We fill in that gap with an interpretation of what did they mean? What did they mean? There is always an action and there's always a reaction. Every conversation, every action, every interaction with every person, there's always an action, there's always a reaction, and there's always a gap. And the key is this: you get to choose. It's not a trained behavior. You can choose to let it train you. You get to choose what you put in the gap. There's always a gap, and you get to choose what you put in that gap. It wasn't too long ago, I was driving with my family on a Sunday afternoon. It was after church. So here I am, a pastor, and I don't remember whether we were headed to where we were going to eat or whether we were on our way home for where we were going to eat. But here's the pastor's family. I'd preached that morning, been able to be kind with one another, pray with people, done all the pastor things. And as I'm driving along, I see out of the corner of my eye this car zoom up next to me. And I look over and I hear, kind of his engine roaring. And I look over and he flips me off. And can I confess, I didn't act very pastorally in that moment. It ticked me off because I thought, I didn't do anything. What's wrong with you? And I thought of all kinds of descriptions that were not kind and were honestly not very Christian and not very pastor-like in that moment. He flipped me off, and then he hit his accelerator, and in that kind of Williston truck way, you could just hear him go, went on. And without even thinking, I hit my accelerator and I'm chasing him down, and my family's like, "What are you doing, Dad?" I don't know what I was doing. I don't know whether I thought I was going to chase him down or whether I was going to chew him out. Probably what's going to happen was I was going to get myself beat up. And so I let my foot off the accelerator, but I'm still watching him. And then I see this car come from the other side and zoom up right next to him. And I realize in that moment, he didn't flip me off. He wasn't mad at me. It was the other car. But what happened? I saw an action. And in a split second, I assumed, this guy's a jerk. And so I reacted. See, the problem with you and me and this gap is that you and I are horrible interpreters. We're horrible interpreters of other people's actions. You are, I am, we are awful at this, and you know it. You know that we aren't good at this, because how many times have you experienced for yourself where you have an action and someone else interprets it, they fill in the gap. And you find out what they filled in the gap, and it just shocks you. And you want to say to them, maybe you have said it to them, maybe it's to a spouse, a family member, a friend, a boss, a coworker. You just want to look at him and say, how in the world would you think that I meant that? I mean, you know me, you know my heart. How in the world would you fill in the gap with that? We've all experienced when someone else filled in the gap with the wrong thing. And filling this gap in a wrong way or misinterpreting is what sociologists have called, and there's a term for it, I'll put it up here, they've called it the fundamental attribution error. Now, that's a big word, but let me tell you what this is. In fact, I put it in the notes on YouVersion or wherever you can fill it in. Here's what it is. The fundamental attribution error is the bias to attribute our own behavior to our circumstances. Did you catch this? It's the bias to attribute my behavior to my circumstances while attributing someone else's actions to their character. Basically, if I know that how I'm responding, how I'm acting, what I'm saying, it's affected by my circumstances. So I give myself a lot of grace. I know why I did what I did. I know why I said the things with that. And we want other people to look at it the same way. You should know me. You should understand. You should know my circumstances. But when someone else says or does something, we attribute their actions not to their circumstances most of the time, but to their character, meaning we look at them and we say, they aren't a great person. In other words, if I do something that disappoints you, I know there's a reason for it. I want to say, give me a break. Come on, you know me, you know my heart. But if someone else does something that disappoints me, it's tempting for me. And it is for you too. Remember, today's teaching is for who? It's for me. It's for you. So when someone else does something to disappoint you, it's tempting to fill in the gap with their character. Man, they're just not a good person. They're so inconsiderate. They're so rude. They just need Jesus badly, you know? We're so bad at misinterpreting things. And we do this all the time. Parents, you know what I'm talking about. You understand the fundamental attribution error. You take your child into a store and they throw a fit. And you know there's a reason why. It might be nap time. They may be hangry and there's no snack available. It may have just been a hard day. And as you look around and you see the judgmental air, judgmental stares around you, everybody filling in the gap with the wrong things, you want to yell out, there's a reason for this. Come on, give me a break. But for a lot of us, we walk into a store and we see someone else's child throwing a fit. Even if you have children of your own. And immediately for a lot of us, there's this temptation to look at them and to think, there's a lazy parent who's raising a demon-possessed terrorist child that I need to protect my family from, right? We talked about it earlier with texting. How often have you texted someone and how they responded, you go, I can't believe that they responded that way, that they said that, or that they ghosted me. When we're talking about minding the gap, the question is, what are you putting in the gap? What are you putting in the gap? And the reason we struggle with what we put in the gap is because we have a very real spiritual enemy. The Bible calls him the devil, Satan, Lucifer. In Revelation chapter 12, it says he is the accuser of our souls. In other words, in those moments when you have a thought goes through you that's like, you aren't good enough, you'll never be good enough, and you're thinking, where did that come from? That's the enemy of our souls and those that serve him who want you to live a life less than you were intended to live. And when you see someone else's action, and there's that gap, I think we can put that back up here, and there's that gap, you begin to hear his voice in your heart, in your mind, that accuses them, that accuses their character. And you're thinking, they're just an idiot. And we begin to put labels on people in that moment. And we begin to become accusers ourselves. And accusations destroy churches. Accusations destroy relationships. Accusations destroy families. And the devil wants you to live in a world of accusation, of blame, of offense. Because when you and I are offended, we're isolated. One of the other descriptions the Bible has of the enemy is that he is a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. And who's the easiest prey? Those who are on their own. Let's go back to Ephesians 4:2. Ephesians 4:2, it says, be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults, because of your love. Notice that last phrase, because of your love. What does love do? Love says, listen, there's got to be a reason. Love minds the gap. Love is saying, even if that person was genuinely hateful, wrong, messed up, there's probably a reason there. And I'm not excusing their behavior. I'm not going to live without boundaries. We'll talk about that again in a few weeks. But I'm not going to be the accuser of their souls. In other words, when I go home today and Kylie asks the question, hey, did you take out the trash? I've got a choice on how to interpret her question. I can interpret her question on, she's just curious to see if it was done so she didn't have to think about it. Or I can interpret her question of, does she trust me? Is she nagging me again? I've got a question. Do I really mean that she is good and well intended? And even if she isn't, do I really believe that I want to live a life in constant anger, constant tension, and relational isolation? When we say minding the gap, here's part of what it means. We say minding the gap, it means when we look at that blank, it means the other person's behavior is not about you. Their bad driving is not about you. Their bad mood is not all about you. The edge in their voice may not be all about you. They may just be having a bad day. They may be facing a battle of their own. They may have just gotten some really bad news. Listen, you want others to give you the benefit of the doubt and understand your circumstances? What are you doing with the gap for others? And I know, we said it already. We say, but what if they were genuinely rude? What if they were intentionally mean or harsh or hateful? What do you do then? Here's what I've learned, and I'm speaking as a person who, especially when I was young, struggled with anger and responding to other people and just this constant state of offense. I try to be careful of what I'm putting in the gap. Do I see this person as what they did, or do I see this person as a person in need of the same Jesus that I'm in need of? Several years ago, there was a person who said, and quite honestly did, some very wrong, very hateful, very hurtful things to both me and the church I was serving in at the time. And still, if I'm really honest with you, still to this day, when I think about it, I feel anger and injustice just welling up in me because it was flat out wrong. It was sin. There's no excusing it. And I struggled with forgiving that person and letting that go. I wanted to make it right for a long time. But as I began to work through this and say, God, obviously something is going on in their life. I'm not excusing what they did, but I'm going to turn them over to you and I'm going to release them to you because I'm the one that's hurting here. One of the things I discovered over the years is that this person was going through and had gone through an incredibly difficult time where someone else had treated them horribly. It's not excusing what they did to me or to the church. But what I found out was I actually looked like and sounded a little like that person who had treated them horribly. So all of their stuff they said and did to me really was not about me in the end. It wasn't right, but it wasn't about me. And one of the convictions that I've learned out of that for me, that I would love it if we all learned as a New Hope family, is that I would rather live with grace than with grudges. I would rather live with freedom in my soul and the faith that God is at work even in the most difficult people than live with anger. Let me take this one step further before we bring this all in for a close. Now, remember what we said. Today's teaching is about who? Okay. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask a question, go to the words of Jesus, and then give us a little bit of homework. So here's the question. What do you put in the gap when someone says something or does something that you fundamentally disagree with. Let me make it a little bit more personal because this is where a lot of us are living these days. What do you do when someone says to you they voted for the other president than the one you think should be president? I know, I'm meddling. What do you do when someone expresses an opinion about what's going on in our world right now? And you just want to scream and say, that's not right. What do you put in the gap in response to their action? Do you put a label in there? They're ignorant. Do you put a political label? They're a liberal socialist, or they're an extreme right winger. Do you call them an idiot? Do you call them stupid? What do you put in the gap? Maybe it's not even a person you know, but whose actions you feel like are affecting you, and from wherever they are. What are you putting in the gap when you say things about them? Jesus, in the Sermon on the Mount that Pastor Aaron walked us through a lot of it last week, taught us near the end of it how to pray. And in the middle of that prayer, a lot of us could quote the prayer, our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name, and we can go on through it. In the middle of it, he taught us about asking for forgiveness and being forgiving people. And then after the prayer, he talked about why that was so important. Matthew chapter 6, we'll put it up here. He says, for if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. Now the question when we read that was he saying that we need to earn our forgiveness by forgiving others? And that's not what he's saying. What Jesus is saying there is, if you are struggling with forgiving someone else, it most likely stems from the fact that you haven't fully realized the depth of your own need for forgiveness. Say, but they're so much worse than I am. Maybe. But if you realize your own need, your own desperation for forgiveness, doesn't matter how bad they are, you recognize the same need in them. Or I said I'd ask a question, we'd go to the words of Jesus, and then I'd give us homework. Here's the homework. As we've been talking for the last several minutes, there's been at least one name, one face that has come to your mind. Someone who said something, someone who did something, someone whose actions have caused you to fill in the gap in a way that dehumanizes them, that puts a label on them, that distances yourself from them, that makes you angry. I want to invite you right now to just recognize who that person is. Then I'm going to pray in just a moment, and as I pray, I want to invite you to ask Jesus to help you to fill in the gap in the same way he would. Because you and I can't do it without his help. That person who hurt me all those years ago, as I think about them, even still to this day, there are times I have to stop and say, Jesus, you died on the cross for them 2,000 years before they ever did that thing. You've already offered for forgiveness for them. Who am I to say they don't deserve it? In fact, sometimes I'll just find myself breathing the prayer, Jesus, I agree with you. I agree with you. Help me to agree with you. So let me pray. Father, right now in this moment, all of us, I would guess, have at least one, maybe several names. Someone close to us, maybe someone who we've never met and may never meet in our life, but what they do just constantly is causing our life to be embroiled in anger and in offense. God, right now, I ask that you would help every one of us to mind the gap We agree with you that they need forgiveness. We agree with you that they need forgiveness. We agree with you, Jesus. And so would you show them forgiveness? And maybe I'm the person that you'll use to show them forgiveness. And right now, Jesus, I ask for your forgiveness for my own sins. If you've never asked Jesus to be the forgiver of your sins and the leader of your life, that's a great place to start. And so, Jesus, we ask this week that you would help us to be a people who mind the gap. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Well, welcome back to the lobby. Thank you again for joining us at New Hope Online this week. Again, I'm David. I'm our First Impressions coordinator, and Russ does himself. Pastor Russ is with me.
Number 5.
Newest member of the Five Timers Club. You're thrilled to be a part of it.
Yes.
It was great. Your certificate's here. You got the jacket, the official jacket now. Very glad to have you. And if you missed, if you don't know what's happening, maybe go back and watch the pre-service lobby at some point. But yes, we have a second member of the Five Timers Club now, so we're very happy. What we do here after the service, if you haven't joined us before, is after talking about the Five Timers Club, because obviously that's a priority, but we usually just dive a little bit deeper into the message, and then we've got some discussion questions for you. So if you're watching with a watch party, some questions to kind of go over as a group when we're done, or if you're watching by yourself, you might want to write those down and just use them yourself to kind of go deeper into the message, either today or as the week goes on. So this was another message in our series, How to Wreck Your Life. Again, it's been a really, really good series, really, really challenging series. First thing I wanted to do real quick before we talk about it is do what Pastor Mike was talking about. Today's message was a tough one. And so before he even started, he had all of us say, this message was for me. So we're going to do it now after and say, that message was for me. All right? So we're on the count of 3, all of us are going to say it together. You can post it in the chat, say it out loud. On the count of 3, we're all going to say, that message was for me. Okay? 1, 2, 3. That message was for me. Again, I think that was a really good thing for him to do, because this was a very easy message to be like, oh, I hope this person's listening. I really hope Pastor Russ was listening to this message. Like, no, this one needs to be for me. But it was mind the gap. So how to wreck your life? Don't mind the gap. Obviously he got into what the gap was about. I did like the example used of the text bubbles. You're texting someone if you have an Apple phone. And you get the 3 little bubbles, and then they go away, and they don't say anything, and you're just furious. What? I was like, ooh, I've been there before. What were you going to say? That made me laugh. But he talked a lot about the gap and about forgiveness, too, and unforgiveness as well. I wanted to read one of the verses that he brought up, but he said it was in Ephesians 4, verse 32, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you. And then he also read another verse talking about how we're required to forgive if we want forgiveness. And it reminded me, my dad would always talk about unforgiveness, and he would say unforgiveness and bitterness is like drinking poison and then waiting for the other person to get sick. And he didn't use that phrase exactly, but that has just always stuck with me. You're so mad at that person, you're so unhappy with them, but somehow you think that holding on to that unforgiveness is somehow punishing anyone but yourself.
But it's not. The other person's not even probably thinking twice about it. So it's like you said, the poison is on you. And when you learn to forgive, it just releases, I think, a freedom. Freedom within yourself. And a healing within yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There was an Ephesians 4:2 that he brought up as well, which was be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. And so going back to the gap that we talked about, he talked about filling that gap with love, right? So the gap, just a quick reminder, the gap is, so there's always an action, and then there's a reaction, and the gap is what's in the middle, right? And so what are we filling that gap with? I know for me, like depending on the action, we're assuming there's forgiveness.
Yeah.
So the action was probably a negative action of some sort.
Yeah.
And so I'll throw all sorts of stuff in
Oh,
that
yeah.
gap. You know, I'll, like if someone, you know, hurt me or someone that I love, I'll fill that with anger.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm, you know, and you try to convince yourself that it's a righteous anger. He even talked about that specifically in the message. Like, this isn't like a righteous biblical anger.
Yeah.
This is just, I'm angry. And love definitely isn't like my automatic instinct in that
I don't
gap.
think I don't think it is for any of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's anger. I mean, I know just like, especially in this day and age, especially with the, like, social media. I mean, there's times where I'll read something and I'm like, oh, and I just want to, first thing I want to do is just like
just
type,
Yep.
and I'm like, okay, no, this
Yeah.
is. So I'm like that person that you were mentioning earlier about the bubble. You know, I'll type something up, then I'll delete it, and then we're like, what did that person say? It's better not to be known.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think sometimes too, you like, for me at least, I'll try to fill it with a distraction.
Yeah.
You know, almost a like I'm not ready to forgive them.
Yeah.
Like, I know that should be the reaction, but I'm not ready for that. So I'll find anything. I'm going to watch a TV show instead of dealing with this thing that's going on, or, you know, because maybe it'll just magically go away, or, you know, and then the TV show ends and you're right back to feeling how you were feeling. And so, yeah, there's the difference between filling it with all these other things or filling it with love, as we talked about, as that verse talked about. You know, be patient with, again, Ephesians 4:2, be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love.
Yep.
Anything else stand out from you before we from those verses?
I think sometimes for my gap, and I found it here recently, is sometimes I'll just check out. I'll just leave.
Yeah.
Just check out, go
Yeah.
do my own thing,
Yep.
whether it's reading or whatever.
Absence.
Absence.
You fill it with absence.
That's a correct.
Yeah.
Good word.
He also talked about and I'm going to read this because I'm going to say it wrong if I don't read it, but he talked about the fundamental attribution error, which I said it right, so I'm pretty proud of myself.
Yay.
Which that is the bias to attribute our own behavior to our circumstances while attributing someone else's to their character. So,
That's
you
a
know,
good phrase.
yeah, that one
Wow.
hit me hard, and that's something that I try to be intentional about in my life, but I'm definitely not perfect with it.
No.
But yeah, you know, you'll you know, you do something mean to me, and well, Russ is just a jerk.
Yeah.
And then I do something mean to you the next week, and I'm like, yeah, but I didn't sleep well the night before, and my son was up until 2 a.m., and my daughter had a fever, and work was crazy the day before. Like, we're so willing to attribute those to ourselves.
Yeah.
But when someone does it to us, we jump right to their character. And I thought that was a really, really important point that he brought up.
It is important.
Just to get us in the right mindset in those chances too. So, well, like we said, we've got some discussion questions. We're not going to keep you here much longer, but maybe write these down so that you can go over them as a group or by yourself later if you're watching by yourself. But the first one is, how have you experienced someone else misunderstanding your actions? So, you know, they misread a situation or whatever. You didn't even do the thing that they're offended about. So how, and then the second one would be, how have you experienced someone extending patience and kindness when it could have easily gone the other way? And I know I have a lot of those. Those are always nice. That's much better than the first one. So do you have, you know, how have you experienced those two things? The third one, going back to the gap. So the third question, there's always a gap between an action and our reaction. What do you usually put in that gap? So Pastor Russ and I talked about a few, probably too many things that we have that we could easily pull up that we fill in that gap. But for you, what is it? You know, hopefully it's love a lot of the time, but the times that it's not, what's kind of that other thing that fills that gap for you? And then the last one was just, are you currently holding on to an offense that's threatening to wreck your life? And as you know, Pastor Mike gave us all homework at the end of the message, kind of related to that one as well. So, are you currently holding on to an offense from someone that's threatening to wreck your life? That's all we got for the post-service lobby here. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Pastor Russ. Thank you for being with me for your fifth time. Congratulations again.
Thank you for inviting me 5 times.
Fill the chat up with congratulations for Pastor Russ. Those of you that have stuck with us through the post-service lobby. Thank you again for being here. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Let's go and be the church.